Okay, so I had both my brain operations in July last year, 2014, and my bone was replaced back into my skull in September last year. Um, so, unbeknown to me, because I was just a person living with a brain injury, I didn't know anything about it, really. So, unbeknownst to me, um, my thinking activity was dysfunctional, and I thought brain surgery, genuinely, I thought that brain surgery was as serious as having a hysterectomy, in the sense of, um, yeah, yeah. So my wish was to return to work in September last year, as I believed I was well enough, and therefore it was right for me to return to work in September. I enjoyed my work, I was good at my work, I worked well with my crewmate, and I enjoyed my other colleagues' company. And returning to frontline duties was and is still my goal. My specialist recovery consultant and brain injury occupational therapists, however, gently told me that actually it was too early for me to return to work in order for it to be successful at that point. So again, I didn't think about my recovery or brain injury because I was experiencing it. I wasn't educated in it. I was just experiencing it. So I was in recovery, and I was in brain injury recovery. So thankfully, I had people who support me, who are able to say to me in their specialist experiences X, Y, and Z. So I'm very thankful for that, and still continue to be. So like I said before, my biggest recovery issue, not my only one, but my biggest one is fatigue, neurofatigue. And I have to currently sleep every afternoon. It's, if I can explain it to somebody who doesn't suffer from fatigue, it's like I had, it was like before surgery, I had a fuel tank that had a turbo injection into it, and it's like since my surgery, it's like my fuel tank has been completely replaced with ever such a small tank, and you can forget any turbo injection. You can forget it. That's what it's like. Although it feels like my tank is slowly increasing, which has been an absolute blessing. So again, I thought it was the right thing to do to return to work in December of last year, and again, I didn't think about anything such as my brain injury recovery. I didn't think about that. I just felt it was right because it felt that I was off work for a long while, so it felt right and safe to go back to work. But again, it was down to specialists to gently tell me, no, I'm still too early in my recovery and it won't be successful. I will not be successful if I try and return to work. So in the new year, I began to slowly understand what neurofatigue actually meant and what it meant to me. And by understanding it, I slowly began to accept it. I've tried my best to manage it, so I can return to living a better better living, and therefore return to work. No, normality. That's essentially what it all means. I've tried a few different ways to manage my fatigue, but I have to say, it's quite difficult. It's quite difficult to manage, and it's quite difficult it's quite difficult. No matter how many times I try to manage it, it has been difficult. Um, so one thing that I do know is that whether you're fatigued or not, everyone turns into tall 2-year-olds whenever you become pooped and knackered and tired. And fatigue, in my experience, just you have no choice, and it totally wipes you out. So anyway, like I said, I've worked in the ambulance service, frontline in the ambulance service for 15 years, and I find it very awkward and difficult to talk to my colleagues about fatigue, because I remember exactly what it's like, having worked full time on shift work, and you're constantly, it feels like you're constantly doing shift work full time. You're having to throw in overtime. I was a full-time mum as well, and a housewife, and when I wasn't at work, and I remember exactly how exhausting it all was. I remember it very well. Just being at work was exhausting, because you got your ass kicked at work. There was a lot of work. It was constant, you know. So I remember what it was like, and so talking to my colleagues about having to sleep in the afternoon, to me, it feels as though I'm rubbing their noses into it, and that makes me feel very awkward and very uncomfortable. Yeah. So, but since I've come to understand and accept and manage my fatigue, I've also begun to understand and accept actually the brain injury recovery takes as long as it takes. I can't encourage it, and I can't speed it up. There's nothing I can physically do that will speed it up. That cheesed me off a lot, that did, because all I wanted to do was go back to work, and all I want to do is return to normality, what I know, and be around the people that I know. That's my job. That's what I wanted to do. But I have definitely, without doubt, had to accept that I don't have any control over it. However, me being me, I thought that I did have some control over it, and I tried to manage it in certain ways, which I'll talk about in a minute. So brain injury recovery, it doesn't speed up because I want it to speed up. It doesn't return to life as it was before, or because I want to return to work, just because that's how I want it to be. I've committed to my well-being by in the hope that actually it assists my recovery, and so I can return to normality, i.e. work quicker. And like I said before, my goal is to return to frontline duties. And so what I've done, I felt so desperate to feel better and energised, and returning to living life before surgery. I felt that I could help manage my fatigue by respecting my recovery and healing time, as well as introducing alternative therapies and complementary therapies. But like I say, I hope this would facilitate my recovery, my return. It would facilitate me to return to better health and to return to work. So I engaged with seeing a herbalist, a craniosacral therapist, an acupuncturist, a Reiki healer, chiropractor, even a physical instructor specifically for a brain injury. person. And so I engaged with all of these people, as well as seeing all of my other therapies. You know, like I see 2 occupational therapists regularly. I see a speech and language therapist. I see a neuropsychologist. I see a neuro physiotherapist. And there's somebody in a complex place as well that I can't really remember their title. But so there's quite an awful lot of people to see. But I felt that because these people that I'd engaged with and asked to help me, because I'd engaged them, I felt that I could manage it easier. But actually seeing them all together became a lot like a full-time job with overtime, and that's a lot of time to get. It was a lot of time, and it took a lot of my energy, and actually it became, I realised and I understood it was becoming it became detrimental. That's right, yeah, detrimental to my well-being and my recovery. So I've had to sort of knock back a few people that I've asked to help me, so that I can just engage with the people that for this moment in time, for the people that still I need to rely on and seek support from. And actually, in doing that, it was probably one of the best things that I could have done, because come April, I actually started to feel some energy, which, when you watch this and hear me say it, it probably means absolutely nothing to you. But actually, it meant the absolute world to me. It felt like I was the owner of gold, because I hadn't felt it for such a long time, and I was actually beginning to feel energy, and that actually helped. What that meant was my energy. I was creating energy, and I was having reserves, which meant I would be having less sleeps in the afternoon, and to no sleeps in the afternoon, and actually life was becoming more and more normal. Beautiful. What else could I ask for? So it's just great.